Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. I would like to speak about this idea that human beings are antennas. And this antenna is expressing the signals it receives as a mind. We can say an antenna has the potential to receive many different kinds of signals. But let us say it can process them one at a time. So we can perceive our intelligence to be receiving endless signals from the moment we wake up to the moment where we sleep, and then it repeats. You know, it's like the conscious mind of the person is like their hand, and their unconscious mind is like a basket. And from the beginning of this life, everything has been thrown into this basket. You know, from ideas on self to ideas on others to ideas to the whole world. And it's an antenna that not only has a choice on its range, but it is an antenna that has a choice of how it expresses the signal afterwards. We receive to express. We express to receive. We receive to express. We express to receive. It's like all objective sensory perception is gravitating. That means the brain is receiving all these senses to be a subject. At the center, the center of the outer realms is within, and the center of the inner realms is without. We need a body to fathom a mind. We need a mind to move a body. It could be this very unique idea that when a person is still, they are nothing, but the moment they move, they become something. The body, let's see it like a candle, like the wax of a candle, the body of the candle. And let us see the mind as the range. The wax of the body of the candle is the antenna, and the mind is the range, the signals it's receiving, the candle flame. Because really it's our attention that suggests our scope. Not everybody is holding everything in their mind. We are like a thing in nothing, relating to other things. Imagine your mind is like a radar scan. And so your intelligence, let's say, your intelligence has scanned the visible realms. Your intelligence has scanned Earth, okay? Now, what is after Earth? Let's assume that we surpassed all nationalism, all cultural differentiation, and we managed to establish this collective humanity for humanity, for human beings. This mentality that we are human beings before we're any sort of language mask. So you would see this kind of beyond nationalism humanity, beyond individual differentiation kind of humanity, and we'd wonder then for how long can we just be humanity? So after we're done playing with Earth, we will go on to play with our galaxy, with our solar system, then our galaxy. Life being conscious is like you're at a meeting, but you didn't set up the meeting. It's like you're just there. When I think about like the mysteries of the inner realm, we're not per se living like minds. People don't have the freedom of a mind, which is not an object. You know, some schools of thought feel that as long as man has fear, there is no freedom. And the reason that even the being incarnates because eternity is afraid of itself. You know, I would say that my experience of life has definitely like been an antenna. I'm pretty sure everybody's experience of life is very similar to that, that in every new moment you go, based on the environment suggesting having an influence on what kind of person you think, it's like there's a change of the antenna. It's like what we call vibes changing. These vibes are like the antenna changing, you know. You know, nature is being nature before man interprets. You know, when I look at the body, the physical body of the human being, the body is designed to move. When I wonder about the conscious viewer, the life force, the living life force that is the attention of the being, that attention doesn't move like a body. That attention is where the body moves in. So you can say some people are expressing their physical existence, some people are receiving their physical existence selflessly. I would like to enter a quote tunnel of the Mandukya Upanishad. This is an ancient text that points to liberation. Om, O gods, may we hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we, while offering our praise to gods with our bodies strong of limbs, enjoy the life which the gods are pleased to grant us. May Indra of great fame be well disposed to us. May the all-knowing or immensely wealthy Pusha be propitious to us. May Garuda, the vanquisher of miseries, be well pleased with us. May, oh my god, I can't pronounce this. Brihaspati grant us all prosperity. Om, peace, peace, peace. Shanti, shanti. In the Upanishads it says, all this is the letter Om. A vivid explanation of this is begun. All that is past, present, and future is but Om. Whatever transcends the three periods of time too is Om. All this is certainly Brahman. This self is Brahman. This self as such is possessed of four quarters. The self seated in the waking state and called Vaisvanara, who, possessed of the consciousness of the exterior and 7 limbs and 19 mouths, enjoys the gross objects, is the first quarter. The self, seated in the state of dream and called Taijasa, who, possessed of the consciousness of the interior and 7 limbs and 19 mouths, enjoys the subtle objects, is the second quarter. So pretty much, guys, the first self, which is in the conscious waking states, a conscious waking state, enjoys like the gross objects, the most immediate objects. The self that is in the dream state, enjoys subtle objects. You could say like enjoys subjects. Where the sleeper desires not a thing of enjoyment and sees not any dream, that state is deep sleep. The self seated in the state of deep sleep and called Prajna, in whom everything is unified, who is dense with consciousness, who is full of bliss, who is certainly the enjoyer of bliss, and who is the door to the knowledge of the preceding two states, is the third quarter. So in the deep sleep state, there's the third self of the third quarter. This self, because it is unified, because there is no condition to it, it's unconditional, it's full of bliss. So who knew? Nothing is enjoying everything. Then I believe the fourth quarter is, it says, okay, something more about the third quarter. This is the Lord of all. This is omniscient. This is the indwelling controller of all. This is the source and indeed the origin and dissolution of all beings. The fourth is thought of as that which is not conscious of the internal world, nor conscious of the external world, nor conscious of both the worlds, nor dense with consciousness, nor simple consciousness, nor unconsciousness, which is unseen, actionless, incomprehensible, uninferable, unthinkable, indescribable, whose proof consists in the identity of the self in all states, in which all phenomena come to a cessation, and which is unchanging, auspicious, and non-dual. That is the self that is to be known. the Mandukya Upanishad, says that same self from the point of view of the syllable is Om, and viewed from the standpoint of the letters, the quarters are the letters, and the letters are the quarters. The letters are A, U, and M, Om. Vaisvanara, seated in the waking state, is the first letter, A, owing to its all-pervasiveness, or being the first. He who knows thus verily accomplish all longings and becomes the first. Taijasa, seated in the dream, is the letter U, the second letter of Om. Owing to the similarity of excellence or intermediate position, he who knows thus verily advances the bounds of his knowledge and becomes equal to all, and none who is not a knower of Brahman is born in his family. And none who is not a knower of Brahman is born in his family. That means when you become conscious beyond the dream state, you pretty much are born in like conscious lifetimes. Prajna, seated in the state of deep sleep, is M, the third letter of Om. Because of his being the measure of because of his being the measure or the entity wherein all become absorbed. He who knows thus measures all this and absorbs all. That which is without letters, parts, is the fourth, beyond apprehension through ordinary means, the cessation of the phenomenal world, the auspicious and the non-dual. Thus Om is certainly the self. He who knows thus enters the self by the self. It is not mechanical. You just are natural, and nature moves as itself through you. So guys, I actually noticed there's another page, and what's shared in this page is so crucial to share. So it's from the Mandukya Upanishad again. Brahman, Om. Brahman, the creator of the universe and the protector of the world, was the first among the gods to manifest himself. To his eldest son, Atharva, he imparted that knowledge of Brahman that is the basis of all knowledge. The knowledge of Brahman that Brahma imparted to Atharva, Atharva transmitted to Anger in days of yore. He, Anger, passed it on to Satyavaha of the line of Bharadvaja. He of the line of Bharadvaja handed down to Angiras this knowledge that had been received in succession from the higher by the lower ones. So, oh my God, Sanaka, well known as a great householder, having approached Angiras duly, asked, "O adorable sir, which is that thing which have been known, all this becomes known?" which is that thing which having been known, all this becomes known. To him he said, there are two kinds of knowledge to be acquired, the higher and the lower. This is what, as tradition runs, the knower of the import of the Vedas say. Of these, the lower comprises the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda, the science of pronunciation, etc., the code of rituals, grammar, etymology, meter, and astrology. Then there is the higher knowledge, by which is attained that imperishable. By the higher knowledge, the wise realize everywhere that which cannot be perceived and grasped, which is without source, features, eyes and ears, which has neither hands nor feet, which is eternal, multiformed, all pervasive, extremely subtle, and undiminishing, and which is the source of all. So that's higher knowledge. As spider spreads out and withdraws its thread, as on the earth grows the herbs and trees, and as from a living man issues out hair on the head and body, so out of the imperishable does the universe emerge here in this phenomenal creation. Through knowledge, Brahman increases in size. From that is born food, the unmanifested. From food evolves prana. Oh my God, Hiranyagarbha. Thence the cosmic mind. Thence the five elements. Thence the world. Thence the immortality that is in karmas. Okay. So, like if we were to see this like an engineer, pretty much it's a reverse engineering from higher knowledge. So, right now, people are in a world where there is karmic vehicles. People are in karmas. So pretty much, this is like the reverse engineering. If you are immortally in a karmic cycle, you gotta reverse engineer and see how the world is made. If you are in let's say the world, the worlds, if you are so the karma. Okay, so we have manifest karma. We notice that the karma is for a self. Before the self, there is the world, you know? And then before the world is made of the elements. And before the elements is the cosmic mind. In Vedic tradition, they see mind as space. And before that was prana, the life force. Or you can say the God force. Before the cosmic mind, there was the cosmic force, let's say prana. And then before that was the unmanifest. So these yogis were human beings that considered their great, 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 great ancestor to be the unmanifest. It's like, who's your earliest ancestor? It's like, before time was born, the space that held it all. From him who is omniscient in general and all-knowing in detail, and whose austerity is constituted by knowledge, evolved this derivative Brahman, name, color, and food. The karmas that the wise discovered in the mantras are accomplished variously in the context of the sacrifice where the three Vedic duties get united. You perform them forever with desire for the true results. This is your path leading to the fruits of karma acquired by yourselves. When the fire being set ablaze, the flame shoots up, one should offer the oblations into that part that is in between the right. Oh my God. Oh yeah, it's going into Agni, so fire ceremony. It says the Agnihorta destroys the seven worlds of that man whose Agnihorta is without Darsa and Parnamasa. Yeah, guys. Last thing to read, guys. It says, to him who has approached duly, whose heart is calm, and whose outer organs are under control, that man of enlightenment should adequately impart that knowledge of Brahman, by which one realizes the true and imperishable Purusha. Yeah, guys, there is something about those who resist the world less, their freedom is there before. Those who resist the world, they miss out on it, you know? Okay, so the wallpaper's kind of. So, anyways, guys, what I'm trying to share here is simply that it is the archaic revival of the unknown. An antenna is receiving signals, and if it is unconscious of a signal it's receiving, it may think it's the signal. Right now, I am speaking, I am, as an evolutionary being, creating noise and sound. But this sound, we don't hear it as just sound. That words translate into images for an internal cinematic experience. You know, it was I was in film school at the time, and I remember in the middle of it, I was just in one class, and suddenly it dawned on me, I am in a film. That life is a film. It is a film where certain moments we can direct it, certain moments we're just an actor, you know? This world is too ceremonial. This is why it's not updating. It is ceremonial in the sense that people want to be correct, but right and wrong is based on the past, because in the future we don't know what's going to happen to be right or wrong. So if the person is always trying to do the right thing, they're actually never doing anything new. Or if they're trying to do the wrong thing intentionally, they're never doing anything new. It's like we have to, as a species, step out of the cave of dualism. If we treat ourselves as an antenna, it would mean pretty much, I don't know, guys. Like when I've been writing and speaking, sometimes I feel sure, you know, there's an ideological entity communicating. Like this whole story of my life is here. But simultaneously, I can't avoid how, just like a bird in the sky, there is no too much of an ideological structure. It's just like life is an event. And it's an event where there is the choice of maybe being more convinced by your inner realms than your outer realms, or being convinced by your outer realms more than your inner realms. But once the game of convictions is gone, when human beings stop pointing ideas at each other, we just need like Zen masters to come in society and be like, put the ideas down, people. And what it means is like, actions are done either through fear or they're done through love. If they're done through fear, the being cannot love itself. The human being is I remember I was in Toronto. Now Canada is seen as a, of course, very uh, evolved nation. But I will tell you that I remember I was in the subway and there was this lady who was so drugged up. I don't know if she had done some hard drugs or something, and she was just walking. And the thing in Canada is that the subways, they've made it as if it's like one giant hallway where all the subway booths are connected. And I remember it was like I was sitting down, kind of like tired, waiting for the subway, and there was this lady who she was kind of like defeated and destroyed, and she was under this kind of like drug withdrawal, walking the row of the subway, just saying please help, like a robot. It was so savage to see that, you know it was so savage to see like how the human being, the human, of course, it's the challenges of the realm, this world, because it doesn't, like, here's the thing, not the world, like a person can go try to hug a grizzly bear, but a grizzly bear is not, it doesn't understand what hugging is, you know So what I'm trying to say is that uh, the outer realms don't comprehend the inner realms until the person communicates. The outer realms can't always pick up how the inner realms of the other is, you know? And the inner realms should not expect the outer realms to be like the inner realms, or you will be very gullible. I, when in my childhood, I was very gullible, you know? And I was very gullible because I wasn't looking at my life. I wasn't caring for it. I was caring for something maybe to become, or something to do. It was all like, when I look back at my youth, I was just running after the future like a fool, as if someone who hasn't noticed why the eyes are here. There's a question where in scientific circles it is a bit this word is kind of like frowned upon, and it's the word why. Why question mark? And for me, that question is the glitch in the system, suggesting language is hollow. And just like how we discovered fire, we discovered that we could connect subjects to objects and think the object is a subject. That's all that has been going on. Pretty much the mind is a copy-paste version of the world that is more valuable, suggesting that there's a subjective self and an objective self, and because both can be witnessed, there is like you're neither your good version of yourself, neither the bad, because you need both of them as a reference, as literally like parts of the spectrum. So something that we were reading in the Mandukya Upanishad specifically, they were saying that you're not even the witness. They're like, the witness is still dependent on the object subject, so it eventually moves beyond the point where it has nothing to do with consciousness. So if truth has nothing to do with consciousness, then it's not a conscious truth. That means we can say there may be an absolute unconscious truth to reality, but as far as the conscious animal is concerned, the limitations kind of, it's like, if we choose to see limitations, how can we be limitless? If we choose to see ourselves limitless, what is there to measure? That means if we were all eternal beings right now, what's the point? Like, what's the rush for building an advanced civilization? Do you know, if we were just immortal creatures roaming the earth, it's like, yeah, whatever. But because we're temporary, because it's literally like seasonal, you know, we are here for a little while. You can run after yourself as truth, or you can run after the world as truth, but eventually nature's mind will meet the person. Any person who I've heard ever say they've had a spiritual experience, I'm like, yeah, you met nature's mind. You realize the inseparability of your own intelligence from the intelligence of the whole moment. My brother once asked me how I see the soul. And I remember I told him I see the soul as the whole moment. And he was like, what do you mean? And that's the thing. Because it's the whole moment, it can't be identified with the content. That means trying to say the mind is limited to the body is like saying the person controlling the spotlight, the actor, is limited to the actor. For the performance, yes, but beyond the performance, the spotlight is different plans. Because really, if you think about it, we say there is suffering, and now physical suffering, the medical sciences need to kind of are serving us. Like, to me, doctors are like, nurses and doctors are like the closest thing we have to angels here on this planet. And so medical sciences are taking care of the physical suffering, but the non-physical suffering either has to do with the person caring for the energetic container they are and wondering what is the purpose of the meaning. Like, if we were a glass, like, why is the glass of water full? And it's for a sort of service-based mindset. So it's like this biological antenna, if it stops choosing to be at a frequency range of individualism and becomes collective, you see, we are on Earth, but we're not making a big deal. We're not like, oh my God, we're on Earth. No way. No. Maybe like the first person who went on the moon, we were like, oh my God, we got to the moon. But like, we're on Earth and we're not surprised. We didn't plant a flag right when we were suddenly opened our eyes on this earth, you know? So what does that mean? That means if we are in the future to become collective and the galaxy is going to be our home, it's not going to be different to now. That means imagine like, I don't know, let's say 1,000 years from now, there's like aliens and they're like, where are you from? And I'm like, you're like, yeah, Milky Way galaxy, man. It's like the same way you're identifying with Earth, but it has become more of a, the archetype has expanded with more authorization. You know, right now we're not treating each other as minds. Anytime you see violence, that means that it's pretty much human beings who don't have the patience to see what minds are like. You know? You see, people can want things in this life or not want things. If you notice, the moment you stop wanting something that is causing you suffering, the suffering goes. You know? There was this quote that said, when you look at the future, you what was it? I think the future was, you have anxiety. If you look at the past, maybe there's despair. I don't know. I don't remember the quote actually. The whole point is, it's like a new experiential level. I mean, look at this picture of this waterfall. Like, us believing this picture is the waterfall is actually denying us from realizing this picture is from an actual place. And the same thing is going on. The same thing is going on in regards to language. We are thinking we are our name, our personality. I mean, in society, we have to be. We require to be individuals to be players in the game. But beyond it, when we're alone with the cosmos, there's this very silly joke where, I don't know, I think I read it online somewhere as like, you know, on a joke site or something. Pretty much Sherlock Holmes and Watson, um, they are lying down looking at the stars. And Sherlock Holmes says to Watson, Watson, what do you notice when you look up? When you look up, you know? And Watson looks up, and it's like the galaxy and the stars. And he says, Watson, I realized like Watson says to Sherlock Holmes, says, Holmes, I realized like we are in a massive universe, and it's there's endless stars and whatnot, you know. And Sherlock Holmes is like, no, what do you see? You know, tell me, what do you see? And Watson looks again, and he sees suddenly the constellations, and he's like, yeah, Holmes, I see the fact that man at some point started projecting meaning into this massive realm of simulated manifestation, all this. And Sherlock Holmes is like, no, Watson, tell me, what do you see? And Watson's looking up at the sky, you know. He's like, Holmes, I see inevitability. I see like da 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 da, this complex, deep thing. And Sherlock Holmes is like, no, Watson, they stole the tent. Like they're gone camping or something, you know what I mean? Like it was like, it's like Watson was trying to see something so complex but simple, but Holmes was like, yo, the simple thing's gone. I pretty much think if you have an analysis of what is the simple variables in the moment and the complex variables, that's pretty much all that Sherlock Holmes was doing. The dude was the dude was just looking around, you know? You know the Sherlock Holmes movies where the actor from Iron Man plays them. Those are like you know, it's my favorite. That's a very great feeling to attempt the advance and continue with enough workability, you know? Like, sometimes, like in the Sherlock Holmes movie, like the confidence that Sherlock Holmes have, I'm like, this dude has no clue. This dude has not. He doesn't have that much. Like the chances of, like, there's actually this funny video. I'm gonna share it here for the audience. It's gonna probably make some people's day. It's by this comedian named Pete Holmes. I think this is a comedic genius, but I don't know. I could be wrong. We need Sherlock Holmes to know. Here, guys, I shared it in the chat section. This is one of the coolest videos on the internet. That's the phenomenal thing. We are an unknown mind experiencing a known body. This unknown mind has an ability to define the known body before it moves. You know, this was the thing about inner peace. That something that has nothing to do with the outside, yet has everything to do with your intelligence, has to be at peace before the body moves. It's the same thing in archery as well, you know? Where before you let go of the bow, there is that silence of acceptance of the moment, and you let go. The purpose of the body is really to just experience the most recent update of the human evolutionary instrument. But when it comes to the mind, because the mind is generating, the concept of time is generated from the mind is actually a timeless analysis. This timeless viewer, whereas the Yoga Patanjali Sutras say this glass orb of a mind you have, or consciousness, is like a glass orb rolling over colored surfaces of matter. You know, there could be this hilarious possibility that the world is flat and it's our sight. We are the sphere. But honestly, beyond shapes, attention is present. Study the antenna that you are. Study how the space of your intelligence treats your mind like the candle flame that its light is creating an awareness to what's in the room, in the dark cosmos. Carry your intelligence throughout every moment of your life like it's a torch passed down. To honor the individual, we must honor where the individual is, which is the collective. To honor the collective means to process and comprehend beyond individualism. If we have one event where individuals are no longer individuals, yet there is still individual bodies, but to the individuals themselves, they're not individual, then collective reality becomes prioritized. The whole issue is, like, I would honestly say, imagine everything that you desire where it's like the person looks at the desire, it's like a meaningless desire, for example, like smoking or something. So that meaningless desire, imagine every time the person had this meaningless desire, simultaneously there was something that was added to civilization. That means for the individual there was a right and wrong, but the system was designed, civilization was designed in such an advanced way where the civilization, for it there was no right and wrong. Everything was an extension. Every human being is like a branch of how the human species can express. There's this story, there is this uh, farmer, and this farmer, let us say an enlightened farmer, or let's just say a farmer. This farmer, there's these two young kids who the farmer says, if you serve, if you every day come work and hard, like there, it's like the farmer pretty much gives a chunk of his own field to both of these, what do you call it? Both of these, pretty much this farmer says to these two people that if you come and help me harvest my crops, a part of the crops that you harvest, I will give to you. Okay? So both guys, so what it means is that pretty much both of the guys, they have an ability to help the harvest exactly and honestly what the old farmer wants. Okay? And they get to also harvest for themselves what they want. But for the farmer just tells them, just with every, with utter honesty and like no drop of sweat as a lie, harvest my field, that field, like farmland or whatever. So what happens is at the end of the day, both guys come back, you know, having harvested the field. The first guy he brings exactly the part that the farmer wanted outside of what he had given to the two younger people. Pretty much the first guy comes and he puts exactly the farmer's harvest in front of the farmer, you know, and the farmer checks it and the guy says, here, this is honestly exactly what you asked for, you know. And the farmer says, I was watching you when you were doing the harvest, and I know that you're not lying, that you honestly worked very hard for that part that was my part of my farm, you know. Now the second guy, he comes and he puts the farmer, the harvest from the farmer's land, allocated land, and then he also brings the land that the farmer gave to the both disciples, like allowed them to take the harvest for themselves. He has brought that harvest too. So he's brought the harvest the farmer has given him and the harvest the farmer wanted. And the farmer looks at him and says, "What is this?" And the second guy says that I am not here to farm grain. I am here to see you. Do you see? That means one of them. It's pretty much the difference between religion and mysticism. Religion wants to abide, or not abide, go along with. Mysticism wants to know why it's happening. You see, the thing about an ideological system is that its design can be so crystalline. That means an ideological system can be so beautiful that it can cause a person to forget other ideological systems. So the moral of that story was, what are you in this life? What are you here in this life to harvest? You know? That means even if a person chooses to serve an advanced civilization, it's like, does the person want to be treated like a child? That it's like, all right, you did the right thing, good boy. You know, it's like, do we want that kind of mentality for ourselves? Do you know? Or is it that instead of getting a check mark of success from the beyond, instead of that, it's like the person says to themselves, what am I here to see? What is this event? Treating life as if it's a party, and why are you at this party? Why are you in this event? And here's the thing, we are so conditioned in a civilization to want to know things all the time that we have forgotten how to treat the unknown. Materialism and immaterialism are two sides of the same spinning coin, and the coin is spinning in the void. The ultimate judgment is technically a judgment of space upon matter. You know, imagine like you closing your eyes, visualizing yourself, but in your inner realms, and then suddenly realizing that that version of you that you, let's say you've closed your eyes and are imagining, suddenly reverts back to who is visualizing it. It's a reversion back into something that is so naturally here that I have no idea how they have been trying to teach enlightenment. It's not something you can teach, because it becomes lifeless the moment you measure it. And if you want a teaching that's measured, that means we are in a world, believe it or not, a world of fools. Now, if we are dishonest fools, we're idiots. The species is so foolish that it's like it doesn't even realize it deserves better. Do you know that's technically foolishness? You know? It's like the same kind of foolishness of a person wasting food. Or how ridiculous it is how much food is wasted or misallocated. That means it's like the question of if there was no visibility, would there be any notion of the invisible? Because for me, the idea of the soul is similar to the idea of antimatter, but it's not antimatter, it's like anti-mind. But it's not like anti-mind as in against mind, it's just not of mind. And I don't know. There is this thing that sometimes I have felt like the illusion needs to stick around. It's too intense. If the illusion wasn't here, people wouldn't have a purpose in their life subjectively. You know, that means like imagine if there was no concept of enlightenment, so many people would just be watching. Like not watching, but like it's like the mystery wouldn't be there. I think that's the thing. If you're a person who has no sense of mystery or unknown in your life, then I think you are outside of a certain gentleness sphere where the sort of love can't find you. There is a certain gentleness, there is a certain releasing of the weapons you have held that's required, and it changes the person. That means when I sometimes speak, I notice like the body is living its life, but the mind is treating itself eternal. That means we know that objects are temporary, but subjects, mind phenomena, and so I feel the concept of the mind is one of the last strongholds of the unknown in uh, the developing secular society. Because there's nothing, the issue is like the whole thing is imagined to be real or reality, or it's like either imagination is real or reality is being imagined. If you feel reality is being imagined, you most likely are entertaining a multidimensional context to this world. You know? If you feel imagination is reality, or let me say it like this, reality is imagined, imagination is reality. Two modes. When I close my eyes, imagination is reality. When I open my eyes, you know, reality is being imagined, you can say. Or sorry, I should say it vice versa, actually, the other way around. Pretty much I'm trying to say, like, in front of my eyes, objects are like the king of the world. Behind my eyes, subjects for a long time acted as the king of the world until I noticed the crown is on the head of an invisible witness. And this invisible witness is free. So that means that anything chaotic that you have identified with in this life, anything ordered you have identified with this in life, imagine watching both simultaneously and not being identified with any. That means it's like they tell the person, are you a bad person? And the person's like, no. And then they're like, you must be a good person. And the person's like, no. And the person's like, what? This person's neither good, neither bad. And the Buddha was like, that's what's up. The body's destiny is very clear. The mind's destiny is unclear. The soul's destiny is the source of clarity. We are timelessly, like it's as if like time, again, like the leaf and river analogy I used in the talk before, like time is being moved timelessly. Plato says time is the moving image of eternity. That means if time was a mask, eternity is experiencing it. Einstein even suggested like time, we created time so everything doesn't happen all at once. And somebody probably was like, no, Einstein, don't say that. Einstein was like, hey, man, it doesn't matter. It's like time's created. uh, I would like to read something before I end off. Okay, guys, so in 2015, I wrote this book, which is unpublished. It's called The Source of Language. This is the ninth essay in it. It's a series of essays. Okay. Playfully handle the ego and sincerely. Playfully handle the ego and sincerely focus on your true nature. And activate such a beautiful self-remembrance that the dawn of mankind shines brighter than blind logic. Ask yourself, in quotations, how is the self being the self? And observe the beauty of the presence of the origin of your thought beyond void personalities. It is very simple. What is the source of thought when the source of language is beyond thought? Could this just be a scribbly book in your hand? What is that awareness within that has projected all externality at this moment? There is no secret when you are the receiver of the world of your origin. To just study the world but also study how you are being the world is the difference between an innate unified vision and a violent illusion. Perceive until you are all perception, both empty and full. With smiling yin-yang symbols, a violent man still plays with dinosaurs. What all this comes down to is to be yourself by becoming aware of the self, by doing nothing to see that you're already being the awareness of everything. Then to remember what must be done, like a broken clock at the end of time. The journeys outside are temporal, the journey within is eternal. Flow as one with the wisdom of your world. Love opens all worlds. Enlightenment is beyond stargates. Speak through devotion and just observe. And it ends, guys. Sorry, guys. My throat's a bit messed up today. But honestly, in these, there's usually 3 quotes. In each essay that I've written in this book, there's 3 quotes. Hafez says, be kind to your sleeping heart. Take it into the vast fields of light and let it breathe. Alan Watts says, this is the real secret of life. To be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now, and instead of calling it work, realize it as play. And then Sri Ramana Maharshi, he says, that which comes and goes, rises and sets, is born and dies, is the ego. That which always abides, never changes, and is devoid of qualities is the self. That self that is devoid of qualities is the true receiver of all the signals of manifestation. And regardless of the sounds, we're just creatures expressing ourselves. Beyond known ways of living, unknown ways of living await us. Thanks for listening, everyone. Much blessings and namaste. And again, apologies for the extra noises and pauses, Really, the moment is just a grand happening.